So when Paul mentioned they were in Christ before I was,
And a ball burger for no one, you go with it.
why
Bacon
mention
burger,
that
top sirloin.
unless there's some value proposition there? So, thus Appendix D, I want to make sure that a 22-year-old who's never even read the Bible doesn't have these ideas in his head that because somebody else is dragging along the boat anchor of the traditions of men and attendance-based clergy lady, blah, blah, Okay, fine, but don't be disrespectful to somebody that's 3 times your age that's actually read the Bible 15 times. Maybe they're sincere. Maybe give them a little bit of slack. Don't use something that you think you know as a reason to disrespect people that are 3 times your age and perhaps have been in Christ for 30 years. Maybe not. Maybe they don't. They're not real Christians and so on. But don't make assumptions that because they're doing something different than what you might happen to know better on some topic or another. That doesn't mean disrespect people that are older than you and were in Christ before you were. So.
Yeah, looking back, I think I can say that 30 years ago I made that mistake and I would do it totally differently now. That doesn't mean the outcome would have necessarily been any different in some of those relationships, but for my own heart and life with God, it would have been better had I approached things in a different way.
I think I had an advantage on that topic because I came from a bunch of empty traditions and contradictions and hypocrisy and all that. And so when I became a Christian at age 21, I really didn't think I knew anything, right? Whoever heard of system versus ecosystem? Whoever heard of, there was Catholic and there was Protestant. That's it. And then you can add a little paint job and throw in the charismatic on top of the Protestant. But as far as rethinking the whole thing, I never heard anybody who did that. So being respectful to those who were older than me was easy for me. I didn't, when I asked the priest, so why did Jesus say call a man father? And I'm supposed to call you father. That's when I was still a Catholic, and I expected a good answer. It was a fair question that will surely get a great answer from somebody who is 3 times my age and knows the Bible. But when that answer didn't come, and it was just excuses and a little indignation and some baloney answers that didn't carry any weight at all. I didn't even know the Bible, but they don't even use the Bible as part of the explanation. It's not a biblical answer. So anyway, I still wasn't disrespectful because I still didn't think I knew anything. But it raised questions that an expert that ought to be a theologian and a spiritual leader and a mentor and all that can't answer a very simple question about why what you do contradicts Jesus. You start to look around a little bit differently. Either quit or you look around and try to find something that's a little closer to the mark. But it still doesn't involve any disrespect for anybody, or I know this and you know and you don't, and what's wrong with you? It's like, and even when I moved into the Protestant version of the same thing, I still didn't assume I knew anything. I mean, you were around. I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't cocky. When somebody said, God doesn't work that way anymore, He doesn't do miracles, I didn't say, what's wrong with you? I said, why? Why doesn't it? Well, because teleos, when the perfect has come, you won't need any more miracles. Like, so I went and looked up teleos. It's like, okay, the word means mature. When maturity comes, well, I don't know. Do you see a lot of maturity? I don't see a lot of maturity. Completion, okay. Completion, what's that? Oh, it's the Bible. Okay, where's that word teleos used to describe the Bible? Anywhere in the Bible? Never? Then why is it there? The word's there a lot in the Bible, but it never meant the Bible. So how can we use that as the reason God doesn't work that way anymore? Well, do you see God working that way? Miracles left and right? That's not the question. The question isn't whether or not God's choosing to do that right now. The question is, does God forbid himself from doing that in the future? You created a doctrine out of it, out of an observation. You can't do that. That makes no sense. So anyway, I still was never disrespectful, but at the same time, I wasn't gullible.
Or if I think about it, I was coming from a different, because as a child, I grew up reading my Bible a lot and then trying to smash what I was doing together, And so when his truth really opened up for me as far as what his life was supposed to look like, I had a little bit more of that. This is, sort of,
I get
you've been pulling,
Gotta go.
See it. I had a little bit more of, I knew it. No, I'm not falling for this anymore.
I understand.
No more duping me.
I do understand that. Now, the Gen Z are not going to have a whole bunch of people in your category because most of them are very unchurched. But I understand why you were coming from there.
Felt like I had to put my foot down a little bit. No. You guys have been trying to lead me down this wrong path for too long.
Now, a different view, which maybe addresses the point where you said you might have done something different.
Yeah.
Might have been.
And I wasn't saying that perspective was right.
Yeah, no.
I wasn't
but
just
I
saying, but
understand the difference.
that was what I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be asking questions and making them actually come out and say. And I've heard people say this in the years since, when I've, walked into rooms full of elders and deacons and pastors and, or, spent a couple of days with the mega pastor at their invitation to hang out with them and go to their Christmas party, staff party, and when I've asked these, authors, pastors, or whatever, some questions, sometimes it comes down to, I know it says that, but I don't care. Okay, we're clear now. No problem. Smoke is cleared from the room. That's all I was after. I want to know, I'm not even trying to tell you anything. I'm asking you why you're anchoring yourself on a point that is actually contrary to something God said. Well, because, well, no, that can't be true. Because. Well, that is because. No, that's not right. Because. Well, how about this? I don't care. Okay, now we're clear. Enough monkey business. It's okay if you don't care. That's between you and God. But, when you're throwing, confetti up into the air to obscure the facts, I can't live with that. If you don't care, at least we're clear. Jesus said this, but I don't care.
Yeah, that reminds me of the person, decades ago who wanted to basically debate back and forth certain doctrines, and he said something like, if we talk about it and I show you in the scriptures what it says, will you change? That's all, and they wouldn't answer the question. They wouldn't answer that question, and you wouldn't talk to them. Like if we're not going to change based on what it says in the scriptures, so I'll change if you show me something in the scriptures. You were like, if you show me in the scriptures, I will change. Will you? And they would not agree to that before talking, and so you didn't talk to them.
That's a good thing to remember. That's profound.
Yeah, that's kind of what Jesus said. Neither then will I answer you.
Right, exactly.
Did you have any of those kind of conversations with Steve?
That was
Steve.
That was Steve. Funny.
that was our in our living room, the three of us and Steve.
That's good.
It's funny that you made that connection.
Yeah, it was loose wire there, but yeah, sort of.
Bye. Have a good rest of the day.
Tight deadlines today.
Trying to finish, so I need to do a public facing website.